Students, today we start with chapter 1 of physics, that is force and rotation, motion. That is types of motion. There are two types. When you talk about types of motion, now obviously if I have this ruler and if I push this ruler, it will move along a straight line because it is free to move. It will move along a straight line because it is not fixed somewhere. But the same ruler, had I fixed it with a screw here, then it would have rotated along the point where it is fixed. For example, if I open this door, the door doesn't come out straight, it will rotate about its axis. So based on whether the object is free to move or whether it is fixed at a point, there are different types of motion. Now see, I have told you rotational motion happens if it is fixed at a point, not if it is totally stuck. For example, if an object is totally stuck at a point, then you may require a very large force to remove that object from that point. So here when you talk about rotational motion, you are talking about an object being just screwed to a point like this, and then it is rotating about that point like the hands of a clock. So types of motion, there are two types: linear or translational motion, that is also known as motion in a straight line. So now if an object is free to move and if you push that object, if a force is applied to that object, then that object will move along a straight line path. That is known as linear or translational motion. Now second is rotational motion. Rotational motion, if a body is pivoted at a point. Now if the body is pivoted at a point means there is one screw with which you have fixed that body to that point. Then if it is given a force, now if I am applying a force in this direction, the body is moving in clockwise direction. So that point where it is pivoted is called the pivot, and the body rotates around the pivot or a screw that is passing through that pivot. So if a body is pivoted at a point, then when a force acts on such a body, it causes the body to rotate about the axis passing through that pivoted point. Example, the rotation of a door. So when you pass through this door, when you open the door rotates about the hinges. That hinges is the axis of rotation. Or a wheel, car's wheel, it will rotate. That is rotation. Such a motion causing turning effect on a body is called rotational motion. So the rotation motion can be clockwise, like I showed you. Like if the force is applied, it all depends on the direction of the force and the position of the pivot. If force is applied from that side to this side, then it is causing it to move in clockwise direction. That's the direction in which the clock rotates. But if I applied the force in the reverse direction, then the force would have caused this ruler to move in anti-clockwise direction, that is 9, 6, 3, 12, that is in the counterclockwise direction. So these are types of motion: translational or linear motion, that is motion of an object in a straight line, and second is rotational motion, that is motion in a circular path. For this, the object has to be pivoted at a point, and for this the object should be free to move. The totally free to move object must be free to move, that is not pivoted. And if in this case it is pivoted, it will rotate around a point. Now the next thing that I am coming to is moment. See, it is not movement, it is M-O-M-E-N-T, moment of force. The moment or turning effect of a force and torque. Another name given for turning effect of force or moment of force is torque. So now here you have an object which is pivoted at the point O, and a force is applied like this at the point A. Obviously, by using your common sense, you can find out, since it is pivoted here and force is applied upward at the point A, the object will rotate like this around the pivot. So it is going to move in anti-clockwise direction. That is 3, 12, 9, 6. That is anti-clockwise direction. Reverse direction of the clock's rotation. So now, even though the force is applied at the point A here, so even though force is being applied at the point A here, still the rotation, when you consider, you will not consider the point where the force is applied, but you will consider the line of action of the force. The line means the straight line passing through A, that line. And when we are considering formula for moment of force or torque, you are going to see the shortest distance between the point O and the line of action of the force, and not the direct distance between O and A. Please note that many times students will generally think that O to A is the distance between the force and the pivot. You are not considering the distance between the point where force is applied and pivot, but you are considering the perpendicular distance between line of action of force and the fixed point. That is the distance OP. So this distance OP is denoted by small d. That is the perpendicular distance between this line of action of the force and the fixed point, that is the pivot. So D is OP, that is the perpendicular or shortest distance between the line of action of the force and the pivoted point O. And F is the value of the force acting. Then moment of force, another word for moment of force is torque, is equal to the value of that force into that distance OP. OP is perpendicular distance between the line of action of force. The line of action of force would have been this. This is the line of action of force. This way the force is acting. The vertical line passing through that point. And the shortest distance is O to P. That is, OP is perpendicular to the line of action of force. So we are not considering distance OA, you are considering distance OP. So moment of force is force into perpendicular distance, that is F into D. Another word for moment of force is torque. So we continue with this. So the definition of moment of force or torque, the moment of force or torque is equal to the product of the magnitude of force and the perpendicular distance between the line of action of the force and the axis of rotation. Axis of rotation could also mean the pivot. So torque is force into D. So that D is the perpendicular distance between the line of action of force and axis of rotation. So unit of torque will be, force is Newton and distance or displacement is meter. So Newton into meter, that is the SI unit. So CGS unit will be dyne into centimeter. Now you know that force can be measured, because Newton and dyne are absolute units. But there are gravitational units also for force. You had learned it in 9th standard. That is kilogram force kgf, or gf, that is gram force. Now you have kilogram force and gram force. Now 1 kgf is 9.8 Newton. So you know that, you have learned that, you told that if the mass of an object is 1 kg, its weight is 1 kgf. And therefore it is 1 into 9.8, that is value of acceleration due to gravity in CGF, in SI system. So 1 kgf meter will also be 9.8 Newton meter, because we aren't changing the meter, meter is as it is, only the kgf is converted to Newton. So last year you had learned this relation, 1 kgf is 9.8 Newton. And next, 1 gf centimeter. Now gf means, let's say the weight of an object is, the mass of an object is 1 gram. So its weight will not be 1 gram, it will be 1 gf. And that gf, when we convert it into dyne, you're multiplying it with 980. Why 980? Because that's the value of acceleration due to gravity in centimeter per second squared. So 1 gf centimeter is 980 dyne centimeter. There will be some basic sums on this. When you do the sums, you will come to know what is the relation and how does it work. So now clockwise and anti-clockwise movements. There are two types of movements that can be produced depending on the direction in which the object rotates. So now here the pivoted point is O. That is, the axis is around that point. Now force is applied at the point A in this direction. So when the force is applied, obviously you know that this body will start rotating in the anti-clockwise direction. So this is known as anti-clockwise movement, which is also considered positive. So anti-clockwise movement is considered as positive movement. Now in the other figure, in the second figure, you have got a force again acting at this point now. Now in this point, when this force is acting, then it is causing clockwise movement. So what has happened here, the force was acting at a different point, it was acting there, and in the second case the force is acting at a diametrically opposite point. So the direction of rotation is changing. Something here that was happening anti-clockwise, there it is clockwise. So clockwise movement is called negative movement. So anti-clockwise positive, clockwise negative. That's what is written here. Anti-clockwise movement is taken as positive movement and clockwise movement is taken as negative movement. Moment of force or torque is a vector quantity. So vector means direction is taken. So here definitely we are considering the direction of rotation. So we are having positive or negative sign put before the answer. So when you do sums on torque, you will not only write the value as, let's say, 100 9 centimeter. You will have to put a positive or a negative sign if that information is given in the question, and therefore state it is clockwise or anti-clockwise. Anti-clockwise will be positive and clockwise would be negative. By changing direction of force, we can change the direction of moment that you have seen. Here the force is applied at A, here the force is applied at a diametrically opposite point at the other end of the wheel. So by changing the direction of the force, or the point where the force is applied, we can change the direction of motion. So now here we are seeing a few examples of moment of force or torque. One is when you open a door, that opening the door by using the handle is an example of moment of force or torque. A hand floor grinder, that is, if you see the Hindi movies, they keep telling when a person goes to jail, chakki piecing. That same thing, that is the hand floor grinder, which is used to grind the flour or wheat and get atta out of it. So that is a hand floor grinder. There is an outer rim, and on the rim there is a handle which you have to rotate. A spanner used to tighten or loosen a nut. So you use a long spanner to tighten or loosen a nut. A jack screw used to lift a car when we need to remove a tire to repair a puncture. So that long rod, by just doing this, 1000 kg or 1400 kg, usually your car would be around 1200 to 1500 kg. So that gets lifted easily. Basically you are taking a long rod and applying a small force. So these are all examples of moment of force or torque. So in this case you may ask, where is the body rotating? Actually the body is moving along a pivot. So one part of the car is only going up. Maybe if the back tire you need to remove, so then the back part of the car is moved up. So it is actually rotational motion, it is not linear motion. And if you want to remove the tire in the front side, then only the front side goes up. The back tire remains on the ground. So there the back tire is the pivot. So now in this case, these are all examples of torque. There is one same question that can be asked in any of these examples, like why is a rod of a screw jack long? Or why is the spanner provided with a long handle? Or another thing, why is the handle of the door kept at the far end of the door at maximum distance away from the hinges? For all these, you have to write one same answer. First, you have to write the formula of torque and explain that torque is force into perpendicular distance between line of force and the pivot. So this formula has to be written. Then you have to say that if this distance is very high, or if you have a large distance, then a comparatively less force will provide the required torque. So you can use less force if the handle or the distance between the force and the pivot is more. So that has to be explained. So hence, if the distance is more, then relatively smaller force will be able to produce the required torque to rotate the nut or lift the car. Hence the spanner or screw jack is provided with a long handle, or the handle of the door is placed at the far end of the door at maximum distance from the hinges, so that the torque is produced by applying less force since the distance is more. One common answer to all of them. Couple. Now what is a couple? Now couple generally you mean two people, but here in case of physics a couple means two equal parallel opposite forces not acting along the same straight line. So that is what is called a couple. Two equal opposite parallel forces not acting along the same line is called a couple. Now this is very important. A couple is required for producing rotation. For example, you are using a key to open a lock. So actually both the sides, you can't open it like this. You have to hold it on both the sides. The key is held at both the sides and then you rotate it. So at both the sides of the key, you are applying equal, opposite and parallel forces. Same way, when you want to open the cap of a bottle, you don't do this and open it with one finger. You require two fingers. So in one finger, you are applying a force in the downward direction, and in the other finger, you are applying a force in the upward direction. So there are two equal, opposite, parallel forces acting automatically. So that is what is known as a couple. Same way, if you are opening a tap, you either do this and destroy the tap very fast, or normally people do this. So two fingers have to be used. So a couple is needed to produce rotation. So obviously some of you may ask, sir, you told that opening a door, there only one force is there. We are applying a force only at the handle and still that is producing rotation. Yes, that is the action force. But a second force is acting at the pivot automatically. When you apply an action force in standard 9, you had learned that there will be an equal and opposite reaction force. That reaction force automatically happens at the pivot along the hinges. So without that reaction force, the door would have not opened or rotated, it would have fallen down. If the hinges were loose and the reaction force cannot be produced, then the entire door would have collapsed, it would have come down, and that rotational motion would not be possible. So for any rotational motion to be possible, there has to be two forces or a couple that is required to be produced to produce that rotation. Even in the case of the door, don't think that there is only one force. This is the action force. There is an equal and opposite reaction force acting along the hinges, which is causing the door to open and rotate along the hinges. So copy all this in your notebook. We continue. Couple, we just saw that in couple there are two equal, opposite and parallel forces. So now we are considering these two forces are same, F and F. Now sometimes you may get a bigger line there and a smaller line here. The length of the line has nothing to do with the magnitude of force. What is written here? F. What is written here? F. Means it's the same force. You don't have to go by the length of the line. ये बड़ा line है, ये छोटा line है. Does not mean that ये force बड़ा है, वो force छोटा है. It doesn't mean that. The force, if it is given with the same alphabets, that means that it is the same force. And the object, this is a pivoted object. The object is pivoted at the point O. That means it is free to rotate. It is just screwed at the point O. So now there are two equal, opposite and parallel forces, so that constitutes a couple. So this force is acting this way and this force is acting this way. So now this will cause rotation in this direction, and this direction is anti-clockwise direction. So both the forces are helping the rotation in anti-clockwise direction. Now what would have happened if two equal forces were acting upward in the same direction? Then in that case, this force would have caused clockwise and this force would have caused anti-clockwise. And since they are two equal opposite forces, and since the distances also, if they are equal, so then anti-clockwise and clockwise movements will be same. So then the object will not move, even though there are forces acting on it. But that's not a couple. In case of couple, the forces have to be in the opposite direction so that there is a rotation of the object. And total moment of couple is any one of these forces. So if 10 Newton and 10 Newton is here written here, you will not take 2 times 10 Newton. It will be only 10 Newton. One force F into the distance between the two forces. That distance between the two forces is also sometimes referred to as the arm, ARM, arm of the couple. So couple is force into distance between the two equal opposite parallel forces. Next, we've seen certain amount of these things in standard 9 when you did equilibrium, and you had learned inertia of rest and inertia of motion in that case. Equilibrium is what? What does equilibrium means? The body is in a state of rest, or it may be in a state of uniform motion even though forces are acting on it. So for example, when a number of forces, the definition, when a number of forces acting on a body produce no change in its state of rest or of linear or rotational motion, the body is said to be in equilibrium. So the body may be moving in a straight line, or the body may be rotating in a circular path, or the body may be in rest. So if there is no change in its state of rest or linear momentum or rotational motion, the body is said to be in equilibrium. Now, two kinds of equilibrium are there, static and dynamic, because the body could be at rest and it remains at rest. For example, a book kept on a table. No forces are acting, but the weight is acting downward, and the table exerts an equal and opposite normal reaction force. So that reaction force is equal to the weight of the book. So that is why the book is said to be in static equilibrium. Now, in a beam balance. So beam balance is the balance that you see in a grocery shop. On one side you may put some sugar, a bag of sugar, and on the other side weights are placed. Now in a beam balance, this distance on the left hand side and the distance on the right hand side is exactly the same. That means the distance from the fulcrum to where you are placing the bag of sugar, and the distance between the fulcrum, that is the pivot, where you have that weight position, and the other side where the 5 kilo, 2 kilo, 1 kilo weights are kept, that distance is from the center of the weighing machine to the beam balance, to this side pan, and that side pan is exactly same. So now if you place 5 kilos here, on this side only when you place 5 kilos, the two weights will be balanced and the pointer in the center will be exactly at the center, at the 0 mark. This is when the entire beam balance will be in equilibrium or in a straight line path. In a beam balance, in the balanced position, only in the balanced position. Obviously, if you put 5 kilos here and put nothing here, then one side will be down. That is not in balanced position. In balanced position, total anti-clockwise movement. Which weight will cause anti-clockwise movement? This F stands for fulcrum. Fulcrum means pivot. That is the position where the object or the beam is balanced. So when you put weights here, this weight will produce anti-clockwise movement. Just imagine it, it's very simple. Now you consider this as a seesaw. What will happen if you sit here? If you sit here and no one is sitting on the other side, you go down. And let's say there is no, like the seesaw is little high and the seesaw can go gul, full, it can rotate. So in that case, how will it rotate? This side will go this way. So let's say that you're just pushing the seesaw and the seesaw is at a height like a windmill and it is free to rotate one end. If you give it a push here, because the axle or the balance is at the center, this side will rotate in this manner. And same way, this produces therefore anti-clockwise movement. On the other side, you have the weights 2 kilos, 1 kilo, 5 kilo placed. So now let's assume this is not there and only those weights are placed. So obviously that weight will cause that part to go down. And if you consider it like a windmill and you push it on that side, then it will rotate like this. So W2 is having clockwise movement. It is very simple. What is movement is very simple. So W1, the sugar bag, will produce anti-clockwise movement and W2 is producing clockwise movement. So in this case is W1 and W2 are the two forces or weights and the distances are same. So you will have in this case total anti-clockwise movement. What is moment of force? Force into perpendicular distance between force and pivot. So W1 into this distance d is equal to W2 into the distance d. So total anti-clockwise movement is W2 into the distance d. So d and d will cancel. So that's why W1 will be equal to W2. That is why the shopkeeper puts, if you tell I want 2 kg sugar, the shopkeeper puts 2 kg weight on one side and he places the sugar in a packet on the other side and then he waits till the beam is perfectly straight. That is, it is balanced. So here, what is static equilibrium? The definition: if a body remains in a state of rest under the influence of several forces, the body is said to be in static equilibrium. So we go on and now we will see what is dynamic equilibrium. Now dynamic equilibrium, obviously the word itself means that something is in motion, dynamic. So when a body remains in the same state of motion, the motion could be along a straight line path, that is translational, or it could be a body is rotating under the influence of several forces. So the body is in the same state of motion. Same state of motion means there is no acceleration on the body. Same state of motion, body moves with the same speed in the same direction. That is the meaning of same state. Same state means acceleration is zero, same speed and same direction. That's the meaning of same state. So when the body is in the same state of motion, the motion could be rotational or translational. Under the influence of several forces, the body is said to be in dynamic equilibrium. Of course, in the exam, you don't have to write what is written in black, what is the meaning of same state. That is for your understanding that I have told this. For example, when a raindrop falls, this example you had seen in 9th standard also, that when the raindrop is falling down, the raindrop is in a state of uniform motion. That means the acceleration is zero. Generally, when any object falls down, what is the acceleration? It is mg. The acceleration is acceleration due to gravity, that is 9.8 meter per second squared. That is because the body has some weight. But now consider the raindrop. The raindrop, you know, it's very light. So when the raindrop is falling on the earth's surface, that when it's coming in the earth's atmosphere, the weight of the raindrop and the upthrust acting due to air and frictional forces is exactly the same. So they balance out. So the raindrop comes at a constant velocity. There is no acceleration. So on the raindrop, that 9.6 meter per second squared is not acting. So because that 9.6 meter per second squared is not acting, so the net force acting on the raindrop is zero, and that is why the acceleration is zero. So it comes down at a constant velocity. What do you mean by acceleration? You've learned that. Please understand what is acceleration. It is v minus u upon t. So there has to be a change in speed. So now if you consider hail, that is a piece of ice that is falling down, condensed water, and that is frozen water, ice when it's falling down. In that case, it is not having zero acceleration. It is coming from huge lot of kilometers on top, and as it comes down, the acceleration is 9.8, so the velocity goes on increasing. That is why when that hail falls, you don't stand and enjoy. Rain falls, you stand and enjoy because it is coming down with a less velocity. That velocity is constant. Once it enters the Earth's atmosphere, there is no acceleration. Because of this, the weight is balanced by frictional force and upthrust. But the same is not true for hail. So that is when hail falls, the ice that falls on the car windshields can even crack the car's windshield. So that is the reason why one does not go and stand out when there is a hailstorm and enjoy the hail. An aeroplane moves at a constant height. Another example of dynamic equilibrium. An aeroplane moves at a constant height when the upward lift balances the weight of the aeroplane acting down. So the weight is acting down and the upward lift, some force of the atmosphere and some force exerted by the engine which is helping it produce that required lift to maintain the weight. So that is why they say reduce the weight of the aircraft by not taking heavy luggage. So there are many aircrafts which, because the more the weight that is there inside the aircraft, the more upward lift has to be produced by the engine so that it can just float in air and move distance. So that is another example of dynamic equilibrium where the airplane is not coming down or going up. Now, what is the conditions for equilibrium, be it static or be it dynamic? The following two conditions should be satisfied for the stone to be, for the object to be in equilibrium. For the object to be in equilibrium, for any object to be in equilibrium, the following two conditions. The resultant of all the forces acting on the body should be zero. For example, let's say there is a tug of war match. You and your team is pulling, 6 people are there on this side, 6 people are there on that side. So you will find that the rope will not move at all if the force exerted by these 6 guys and the force exerted by those 6 guys is exactly equal. The rope will remain at the same position. So that's an example of equilibrium, and that's an example of the first point. The resultant of all the forces must be zero. Simpler example, now I push this board back, but it is not moving. That is because the wall is exerting an equal and opposite push in the forward direction. That is why it's in equilibrium. So second example is algebraic sum of moment of all the forces acting about the point of rotation must be zero. In the last frame I had explained about that weighing scale, the beam balance. The beam balance which is used in the kirana shop to weigh your sugar and fruits. So on one side you are placing the weights, 2 kilo, 4 kilo, 5 kilo, etc. And on the other side you are placing the bag of sugar which you want to weigh. In this case it is not the forces acting on the body, it is on this side you are producing anti-clockwise movement, and on that side the weights are producing clockwise movement. So those two moments should be equal, and if the total anti-clockwise movement is equal to the total clockwise movement, then that beam balance won't move up and down. It will be perfect in the horizontal position. According to principle of moments in equilibrium, sum of the anti-clockwise movement should be equal to sum of all the clockwise movements. This is important. What are the conditions for equilibrium? And this will be used extensively when we solve the sums. There are sums based on moment and this couple. So we will have to do the sums. When we go to the sums, we will be using this concept. That is, one, the sum of all the forces acting on the body should be zero. And number two, algebraic sum of moments of all the forces acting about the point of rotation must be zero. These two conditions have to be satisfied if the object has to be in equilibrium. So principle of moments, define principle of moments is another important question. According to the principle of moments, in equilibrium, that word should be there, otherwise it doesn't make sense. According to the principle of moments, in equilibrium, sum of the anti-clockwise moments should be equal to sum of all the clockwise movements. So sum of the anti-clockwise movements should be equal to sum of clockwise movements. So that is the condition for equilibrium, or that is also principle of moments. This was the second condition of equilibrium, but that is also known as principle of moments. So now to understand the principle of moments very clearly, just consider a simple example of a seesaw. Now in this seesaw there is a fulcrum at the center, that is the support, where it is welded. On one side you have, let's say, a child who is weighing 15 kg, mass is 15 kg, so weight is 15 kg. That child is sitting at one far end of the seesaw. Now the child's father comes and sits on the other side. But obviously the child's father can't go and sit at the very extreme end, because in the seesaw the child will be always in the upward position. So the child's father has to come and sit closer to the fulcrum. Heavier the weight, closer to the fulcrum. Lighter the weight, further away from the fulcrum. Why? Because we are using principle of moments in this. In this case, this father is producing anti-clockwise movement and the child is producing clockwise movement. By principle of moments, we say total anti-clockwise movement, TACM, total anti-clockwise movement, is equal to TCM, that is total clockwise movement. So weight of the man into the distance of man from fulcrum is equal to weight of the child into distance of child from the fulcrum, because moment of force is weight or force into perpendicular distance. So all distances will be measured from the pivot, that is the fulcrum. So weight of man is 60 kgf into 0.5 is equal to 15 kgf into x. So 30 upon 15, that is x, would be 2 meter. So if the man was sitting at a distance of 0.5 meter away, because his weight was 60 kgf, the child whose weight is 15 kgf must sit at a distance which is 2 meter away from the fulcrum on the other side. Only then the fulcrum, that is the seesaw, will be balanced and in the horizontal position parallel to the ground. So this is a simple example of principle of moments. Now we go on to the next part of the topic, that is center of gravity. Now in center of gravity, we are considering any object. In this object, now you have so many particles constituting the object, it is virtually impossible to show each and every molecule constituting the body. But for simplicity, I have shown 6. 3 on this side and 3 on that side of this center, which is called G. That G need not be the geometric center, because obviously this is a shapeless object, it doesn't have a definite shape. So that is why the geometric center need not be the center of gravity. The total weight of the body will be sum of the weight of all the molecules constituting the body. So the total weight W, capital W, is this W1, W2, W3, all those up to Wn. So this is just to understand that a body consists of many molecules and each molecule has weight. That weight acts in the downward direction and the sum of all those weights will be the total weight. Now by definition, the center of gravity of the body is the position about which the algebraic sum of moments of weights of all the particles constituting the body is 0. So the algebraic sum of moments of all the particles constituting body is 0. That is, the entire weight of the body is considered to act at this point, however that object may be placed. So there are many different weights, and the sum of all the weights acting on the body at that point is 0. That the entire weight of the body seems to act through that point. So if you do W1 into the perpendicular distance, W2 into the perpendicular distance, W3 into the perpendicular distance, these three weights are going to produce about this point it is going to produce anti-clockwise movement. And these three weights, W4, W5, W6, those three weights are all going to produce clockwise movements. So this W4, W5 and W6 are on that side of G, so they will produce clockwise movements. So you are being told that the sum of all these anti-clockwise movements and sum of all the clockwise movements about the point of gravity would be equal to 0. And the entire weight of the object seems to act through that point G. So by definition, center of gravity of a body is the point about which the algebraic sum of all the moments, W1 into D1, W2 into D2, W3 into D3, that is sum of all the anti-clockwise movements is equal to sum of all the clockwise movements, W4 into D4, W5 into D5, W6 into D6. That all balances, and the algebraic sum, the net sum of all the weights passing, of all the particles constituting the body is 0. Entire weight of the object seems to act through that point. Now simply to understand it, let's consider this ruler. This is a uniform ruler. Now if you try to hold your finger at one point here, one point, that means the upper finger is not there. Will you be able to balance it? No, it will fall down. If you try to balance it here also, it will fall down. But there will be a point at the center where the sum of the anti-clockwise movements and the clockwise movements would be same. So the one finger at the bottom is able to balance the ruler. So that point at which the total sum of all the clockwise and anti-clockwise movements is same, that point is known as center of gravity. And in case of a ruler, if the mass of the ruler is evenly distributed, then that center of gravity will be at the center of the ruler. For all regular bodies means bodies having a definite shape and size, there is a formula for finding the center of gravity. Like for example in the ruler, it's at the center of the ruler. For a seesaw, it will be at the center of the seesaw. Provided the ruler has uniform distribution of mass, that means this side, that side, all are of same thickness and same material. But yes, for irregular objects, there is a way you can find what is the center of gravity by using a plumb line and hanging the object, and you can find that. But the definition is important, and what are the factors that affect center of gravity I will do in the next frame. That is important in this part. And then I will be making the table to show which are the center of gravity for objects. For let's say for example a cylinder, a cone, a sphere, where is the center of gravity? So now with regards to center of gravity, first the position of center of gravity of a body of given mass depends on the shape of the object, that is on the distribution of mass. For example, take this example of a straight wire. When the wire is straight, the center of gravity is at the geometric center, that is at the exact center of the wire. But now that same wire, if you have turned it and made it in the shape of a ring, circular shape, then the center of gravity will lie at the center of the ring, where actual material of wire is not there. The wire is this, the circular shape. The center of gravity need not be on the wire itself, it can be at some other point where there is no wire, like in this case. So this is an example to show that the center of gravity will change if the shape of the object changes. So the factor affecting center of gravity is the shape, that is distribution of mass. So with this it should be clear that in case of a ring, the center of gravity can lie at a point where there is no material. The entire weight of the object appears to act, or the object acts through the center of gravity. Now I'll make the chart where you can see what is the center of gravity of some regular objects like cone, solid cones, a cylinder, sphere, etc. That has been asked few times for different objects in the board exam, like center of gravity of a triangular lamina. Lamina means shape. It is the point of intersection of the three medians. Now what is median? Point from the vertex to the midpoint of the opposite side. So that I will write on the next frame. Now center of gravity of regular objects. A couple of questions, 1 mark each, has been asked in a couple of board papers. Object rod. Position of center of gravity will be midpoint of the rod. So this is the rod, the center of the rod, the midpoint. You have to use the word midpoint of the rod. Circular disc or ring. In a ring, it is open. There is only the periphery which is there. Whereas in a disc like your frisbee, the disc is solid. The entire material is there. So in both cases, it's at the geometric center, whether it is the disc or in case of ring. In case of ring, I had already explained that there will be no material of the ring at the geometric center, but still center of gravity will be the geometric center. Solid or hollow sphere. The geometric center of the sphere. Sphere means your football. It is not a disc, it is not a ring. Disc is flat, football is goal. So in that, it is at the geometric center where there is no material of the ball. Hawa hai. Inside the ball, at the geometric center, outside there is the leather, then there is the tube which has the air, and inside there is air. So at the geometric center of the sphere where there is actually no material, it is air. Solid cone. See, now difference is there. In case of cone, there are two things. One is solid cone and hollow cone. So solid objects are more stable because they have a lower center of gravity. So solid cone has a center of gravity at a lower point. It is at a height of h upon 4 from the base. The entire height of the cone, the vertical height is OA. OA is the height of the cone. See, AB is not the height, that is called slant height. So it is not AB. O to A is the height. So at a height of h upon 4 from the base. So OG is h upon 4. That's where the center of gravity, that's the point G. But now if it's a hollow cone, means nothing inside, air inside. So if it's a hollow cone, then the center of gravity will be slightly higher. So center of gravity will be at a height of h upon 3. This should help you remember something you would have learned in lower classes. Like you have double-decker buses, very few are there left in Mumbai, but you have double-decker buses. In those buses, the conductor never allows the people to enter directly on top. First, he will make sure that most of the seats at the bottom are filled, only then people go up. That is because if too many objects are there on top, the mass is more at the top, then the center of gravity rises. And if the center of gravity rises, then the object becomes unstable. So that's the reason why when ships go floating in the sea, even though the ship is floating and the ship has a weight, there will be a place where they put some ballast. Ballast is some sandbags are put there so that the ship becomes stable. It should have a certain weight at the bottom so that the center of gravity is low. Otherwise, when there is strong winds and waves lashing the ship can collapse or capsize. So, center of gravity for solid object will be at a lower point, and if the same object, same shape and same height also, but if it is hollow, then the center of gravity will rise a bit. Same reason why now all the new Volvo buses, they don't have luggage kept at the top. They all have vacuums or hollows at the side back where the luggage is put in. That's again so that the bus is stable because all the weight of the luggage will be at the bottom. So then when the bus takes a sharp turn, that bus won't fall. So solid and hollow cone, remember solid cone is at a height of h upon 4 from the base, and hollow cone is slightly higher center of gravity at a height of h upon 3 from the base. Now triangular lamina means shape. Triangular lamina or in any scalene triangle or any triangle for that, not necessarily only scalene triangle, it is the point of intersection of the three medians. Median is from the vertex to the midpoint of the opposite side. There are three medians, so those three medians where they meet, that point in maths you have already learned is the centroid. The centroid is also the center of gravity. Parallelogram family, which includes rectangle, rhombus and square. That full family, we have learned it in 9th, and I have told you that parallelogram is the father, the first person in that group. It is the point of intersection of the diagonals. So the diagonals where they intersect, that is the center of gravity. So with this we have finished the part where you have learned center of gravity, principle of moments, what is moment of force, couple, and examples of couple. This is the first video of this topic. Now in the next video we will be doing what is uniform circular motion and what is centripetal and centrifugal force, and then we will also look into few of the sums of the classwork sums and see how to solve it. The remaining we will be doing those in the Zoom sessions that follow after that. So bye children, take care.